the 81-point Kobe Bryant game, and for some reason, we like to focus specifically in on Jalen Rose and his part in that. You were a Lakers fan.
Yeah,
yeah, I'm sorry. I thought maybe you've abandoned since the new king came into town.
Never.
But I was wondering, like, people have their stories of, I had a story of like when SC beat Notre Dame and the Reggie Bush push, and then, Texas fans have their story of when they beat USC in the national championship game. Where were you? And were you watching the game? Because I wasn't even watching that game when it happened.
No, so what's crazy is that, first of all, my family's a big Laker. Like, I come from a big Laker family. And you know how you have to, usually your parents, because I was young. I'm not going to give out my age, but I was young. And so we did have a curfew. Like, there was a time where we had to go to sleep, and, there was no TV, and there was no phones, actually, where I had a phone.
Man.
So they let us stay up. No, my parents let us stay up to watch the game. And my parents weren't like the craziest strict people. Like, it wasn't like by 7 o'clock you have to go to sleep. But it was more so just the energy and the impact. And my mom didn't want us to, like, I don't know, just like do anything crazy on a school night. So the fact that we were able to watch this game, my dad is like enjoying it, just kicking back, enjoying a beer. We're all like, it literally felt like we were in the arena, and we weren't. It was just the living room.
Well, so it felt like your family knew something special was gonna happen.
I mean, just Kobe is special. You know what I'm saying? So it was one of those where, like, the game was at a high. You remember, I think it might have been just the second half alone was an explosive half for Kobe. Like, walking into the game, it was an explosive game. But the second half in particular was a big game changer. Not only Kobe's performance, but also like the Lakers and the chemistry and rotation that they had going on. So things kind of picked up after the second half, and then we all know the turnout.
Yeah, let's go to the demographics about the big second half. So, of course, the Lakers star Kobe Bryant scored 81 points that game. It was on a Sunday night. Second highest total in NBA history. It was a 122-104 victory, of course, against the Toronto Raptors. Wilt Chamberlain's, of course, famed 100-point game 44 years before that is the only one that was higher. So you talk about that second half in particular. Wilt Chamberlain had 59 points in that second half. The only player with more points in a half than Kobe's 55 after halftime. So there was something that turns on in the locker room. So you score 81, but you go in there with, under 30. And there's something in the locker room that something turned on.
Yeah.
There was a point when Jalen Rose has openly talked about some of his experience with this game. There's a point when they see something going and they're like, who's gonna slow this guy down? Who's gonna guard him? And it continued on from there.
Yeah.
I'm a notorious Laker hater. I've warmed up to them, actually. There's a couple of you know that. Don't act like you don't know that about me.
What are you, a Clippers lover? Where are you from? Yo, seriously, where are you from?
I was born here. I grew up in St. Louis, and then I came back.
So who's your team? This is news to me.
You didn't know this?
No, this is news.
How have you been doing this long?
Who is your team?
You said you've been had this year. You don't know how much I've.
I guess I don't. I'm actually really glad I never knew this about you, because you're one of my favorite people. But holy smokes! So
which
who's
means
your team?
I always have well thought out reasons for everything.
So who's your team?
Now it's the Clippers. Yeah. When I was a kid, I was a huge Reggie Miller guy. I loved Reggie Miller.
I've never been so sick in my life. I've never been.
How did you not know this?
I've never been more sick. I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry for you.
The problem is because a lot of times the way the Lakers behaved around the 2000 period, which is when I had my height.
I'm sorry. I don't even know how the Clippers behaved. Did they behave well?
They did.
What did they do?
They played badly. Is what they did.
So they didn't behave.
They behaved just fine because no one paid attention to them.
Oh man.
But no, the Lakers, like, okay, let's put it this way. The Lakers fan base turned me off on the Lakers, is what happened. Because of things like what you just said.
Is anybody hearing this guy? Am I the only one that's losing it here? The Lakers fans, you're from LA.
Lakers fans have this weird, they have this weird acceptance and denial policy, right? What they do is like, they want everybody to be on their side. But then when somebody doesn't like their team, like, well, what are you the fan of? Which I just heard just now.
No, because the thing is, if you're gonna root for
you should be okay with people not liking your team. Because who wants everyone on their side? I don't.
No, you're right. But the thing is, if you're gonna root for another team, if you're from LA and you're gonna root for another team that's not the Lakers, make sure it's a team that's better. Okay? So that makes me think a lot part.
That's the other part. This is the other thing. Because Laker fans, apparently, if their team is not good, which they haven't in the past several years, you know what happens? They completely forget who the Lakers are. They forget their fanfare for them. They forget how much they love the Lakers. All they go is, you know what, we need to buy up a couple more guys and see what we can get out of this whole situation. There's a little bit of an expectation for being given things as a Laker fan is what I noticed. After they got Shaq and I used to like Shaq.
Okay.
He came to LA, and this is one of the things.
You used to like Shaq.
When he was with Orlando,
moved to LA, you hated him.
Absolutely, because I had to put up with people talking about him, which didn't know what they were talking about. So this is what I've always been able to. This is what I've always been able to say.
I don't want to continue this.
This is what I've always been able to. As most people who dislike the Lakers of that era would say something like, "Oh man, Shaq sucks, Kobe sucks." That's ridiculous. That's the big difference. I'm able to admit when they were good.
Thank you.
Hey, Jayar, as a fan of the Lakers, I have to totally more or less agree with your grievances because
Bart Kyle comes in. He's one of the biggest Laker fans I've ever known.
No, because during that era of the Lakers, the 2000 eras, I pretty much tuned out. And to me, and I see where you're coming from, Jayar, because the Lakers to basketball is like what the Yankees are to baseball. You know, and then there's just two types. There's two types of Laker fans: a fan of the team, and Kobe fans. And Kobe fans annoy the heck out of me. I'm more or less a fan of the team through the ups and the downs. In the last 4 years, there were many downs, and when those downs happen, when the ups begin, you begin to appreciate it because you're on the down. And the major thing that annoys me on some Laker fans is that expectation. It's like, come on, man. It's like
Denise has been around for a year. We're gonna bring something up from last.
My eyebrow has never gone higher on this show. I have never been more confused, Bart. I have never been more confused, Jayar. First of all, this is what I think. I think you've been a Clipper fan for how long then?
Probably since like the mid 2000s, like 2005 or so.
And you only dislike the Lakers, if I've heard your statement correctly, because of Laker fans.
Yeah, it's just when you have to live near the fan base of obnoxious folks and fans, then you tend to. I bet if I lived in Boston when the Celtics won, I'd probably be annoyed with those fans too. I had to live near them.
If I'm hearing you correctly, you're disregarding performance, talent.
For my disdain for what? For the team? Yeah, sure. It doesn't mean they weren't good. That's what I'm saying. These two things are separate. Yes, they can have a good team and I don't like them. You don't have to like a team because they're good. That's the thought process of a Laker fan. Like, oh, well, they're good, so I'm supposed to like them, right?
No, I feel like, okay, so you never cared about, when you watched a Clipper game, you're telling me you never cared about them winning.
I did, but that's why it was depressing.
So you like to be depressed?
No, but who jumps ship on a team because they suck?
Who jumps from another team or who hates a team because of the fans? Is it you too, Bart?
What was the question again?
Lots of people. Who
hates a team because of the fans?
Lots of people.
Well, there are some fans. Go ahead.
That's what I'm saying.
That makes no sense.
That loyal if it's turned on and off by the other fans. Like what?
Just forget
I was never a fan of Lakers.
Sit in your home and watch the game. What does other fans have to do with this?
Because I sit around fans. You sit with your boys and watch the game.
You do.
No, this is the thing. It's not like I was a Laker fan and then Laker fans turned me off of the Lakers. I was never a Laker fan.
You were never a Laker fan?
No.
So you didn't enjoy basketball or like what's?
I told you I grew up a Pacers fan. I watched Reggie Miller. That was my favorite player as like an 11-year-old kid.
True,
right?
okay.
Loved Reggie Miller. And I didn't care. I wasn't a Bulls fan. I lived in the middle of the country.
Okay.
Everyone loved the Bulls where I was. And I was like, yeah. I mean, I don't dislike them.
Right.
But I wasn't rooting for them hard either way.
Fair.
And then I came here and I was like, and I eventually detached from the Pacers because I was like, I'm not seeing them as much anymore. And I was I didn't have a team for like 3 or 4 years.
You know why you detached from the Pacers? You were tired of being depressed. But you know what? I'm understanding it.
The Pacers were great. They just didn't win championships, sure, but it was fun to watch.
Listen to me. Listen to me. He was tired of being depressed. He moves to another state. He's conflicted, but he's so used to being depressed. He goes for the team with the biggest depression rate. And you go for the Clippers, which makes sense to me now.
This was the thought. I was like, this is the city I'm in now.
People go with what they know.
It's my favorite.
And that's where he went.
Once again, I can see where Jayar is more of a fan of the Clippers because there is that fan base within the Lakers that will just annoy the heck out of you, but Jayar, I have to give you the brutal reality of the Clippers. The Clippers will never be part of LA. They're always from San Diego. They will never, like, when you think of a basketball team, Lakers. Clippers, no.
Like, the Clippers are hopeless romantics, and the Lakers are romantics. We get the job done. The Clippers, go with chance and fate, and hopefully we get somewhere. And the Lakers are like, let's put in the work and see what we have to do and get the job done. We might not get where we want to be, but we'll get closer and closer to where we need to be.
That disappointing stretch that the Clippers had when they had Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin, and everyone expected them at least get to a finals.
Right.
And they didn't. I guarantee you 25% of the Laker fan base called themselves Clipper fans. Just because of their thought process. They're like, well, they're good. So yeah, if they win, I'll say I was with them this whole time.
That was probably like 5, 10, at most 15% of Clipper Nation or Laker Nation, and we don't, and that Laker Nation doesn't count.
Those are the people that were in my ear all the time, and I was
he's saying that there was some Laker fans that jumped ship when Blake and CP3 came to LA. Fair, that's fine. You know what? LA just got more entertaining, but as soon as they left, guess where they went? Back home, where they belong.
See, what kind of fan base is that? What kind of fan base is that? So, by the way, also, Bart, to your point, when I was watching Clippers in futility, and then they moved, the Staples Center opened up, and they moved from the sports arena, and then I was like, this is not their arena. Yeah. I was like, the Clippers are not liked enough in this city. I thought they should move back to San Diego.
It's not that they're not liked, they just don't have an audience.
But when they won, they did.
I shouldn't say that.
When they started winning, they had an audience. Just
For the
saying.
record, I don't hate the Clippers. I just hate that he decided to root for a team. I hate that he decided to root for a team based off of a fan base. That's what I hate. I don't hate the Clippers. I really don't. I don't hate the Clippers.
A lot of people dislike the
Dodgers.
Dodgers.
You made that decision
a lot of people dislike the Dodger fan base. I'm a huge Dodger fan. I've been immersed in that fan base, and it's fun when you're part of it.
Wouldn't you be pissed if someone said, you know what, I don't like the Dodgers because of the Dodger fans?
I heard it a lot. I hear it a lot from Giants fans, especially after fights happen in the parking lot.
I'm not even a fan of Giants fans either, but that's a conversation.
There's similar folks. This
whole conversation is based off a flawed premise. We're talking about people that are described as fanatics.
Thank you.
It's the basis of sports.
You're talking about the extremists of any given movement.
That's the basis of sports. Maybe you're not a fan of sports fan base. That's just the way it is. That's cool, but that's where they are. And if you have to hear someone in your ear like a fly all the time, you're like, I can't start rooting for this fly. He's annoying the hell out of me. For everyone who's still holding on for this conversation, the game was on January 26th of 06. 22nd of 06, I'm sorry. Kobe's big game. He beat up on Jalen Rose, and I think Jalen Rose should be let off the hook eventually for it because Kobe Bryant would have done that to someone else eventually in his career. So it's not like if Jalen Rose never made it to the NBA, that Kobe Bryant would have only topped off at, I don't know, what's his next highest game? A 60-something probably?
60 points the last game.
Right.
Here's the thing. Jalen Rose, that was such a special moment that Jalen Rose will never live down that moment. He will never live down that moment. Yeah. But I applaud him for being a sport about the entire situation because it's hard to have. I'm sure he's blocked so many Laker fans because of the freaking 81 jokes that he gets. Yeah. But he's still a sport about it. And you know what? Last year he did that commercial with ESPN when they both, had that moment at the restaurant. And I applaud him for being a sport because he gave him the WTF face in the best way. I'm sure Jalen was waiting 10, 11 years to give him that face because it's like, damn dog, because of you, it's been 11 years and we're still talking about this.
If you made it to the end of this video, mazel tov. If you want to see more, hit the bell and hit subscribe. Why don't you?